advocates, I think, yeah. So we're so glad to have you here, Fiona, and we hope to learn a lot from you today. Next is Comrade Tony Otoa. We refer to him as Comrade, and I believe he prefers to be referred as that. His titles are really huge, so maybe I'll just talk about some of them. He's the CEO of the Stanbic Business Incubator, and also a professional speaker. I think this is a field that we could actually approach him so much to see how best we can get some of the skills that he has. And also a consultant in the energy sector, and I think local content. So thank you so much, Comrade, for making time to be with us here today. And maybe to get straight into the discussion, I would like to start from your end. Today's discussion is looking at career change, switching industries to amplify growth. Now, there are quite a lot of controversies when we speak about career change and looking at the context in which we are, the fact that, of course, unemployment is at a high rate. A lot of us have to change careers because we're trying to earn a living. Very many times we've had to go away from what our passion is, because we follow where the money is. So when we speak about career change, it's more like moving from one industry to the other and maybe taking the skills that you've acquired from that particular industry. Just to set the pace, in your personal experience, just if you can share more about career change and maybe later also get into how one knows that it's about that all they need is a career change, probably because they don't see the career growth in the certain field where they are, and they feel there's a lot of untapped potential that they would like to tap. How can someone be able to know that, I think what I need at the moment is a career change, but also how do we ensure that the skills, for instance, acquired in a particular field can help one to either sustain or to build on those even while they are trying to pursue this particular career change. So I could start with you, Comrade Otoa, and maybe I would get to Miss Fiona Wall.
Can you hear? Or I have to use this for the okay. Okay. First of all, I'll start off by saying, I think I've had so many career changes, so I don't even know where to start. I began as a tan boy, I was a DJ, I was a journalist, I was a chef, so there's so many things. But again, by the way, let me also apologize for my hat. I have to wear my hat. My hair is still growing back, so the hat has to stay on for now. But thank you. It's a Ubuntu leadership hat. If you're good, I will give you one. I will give you one if you're good to me today. But listen, the whole idea of career changes or shifting careers is a very critical one for a lot of people. I'm a lawyer, an international lawyer. I have a British practicing certificate, but I've never used that on any single day. If you ask me what I'm doing today, I'm doing something totally different. I'm walking around entrepreneurs, enterprises. I like walking around businesses. I believe many of you love money too. So I love money. So I'm just really around the whole entrepreneurship ecosystem. And for me, you ask the question of when is it the right time to think it's time to shift? I just can't say there is a right time. I can't really define a right time for anyone. It's really your individual calling. Personally, for me, I think it was really driven around the whole area around passion, where you get into something and you like it, you enjoy it, you don't feel like you're working. That alone for me, I think is, something that really drove me into this other path. But yesterday I tweeted about side hustles, and I said there's a difference between a job and work. Now, you need to understand the difference here, because you see, your job is what you go to do every day, 8 to 5, right? You show up, you retire. And when you retire, you are hitting your head on a wall, not knowing what's going on. Work is what you enjoy doing even when you retire. probably until you die. Now, I don't know if you've understood or if you've read about the concept of ikigai. It's a Japanese concept. And in the Japanese concept of ikigai, it's really about finding your passion or something that you are willing to do until the day you die. Okay? So until you get to that point where you find that ikigai moment, maybe that's what could probably be your defining moment in shifting your career. So I have never been a proponent of, if this is your career path, you should follow it. I've always been about take the other route, alternative route, and just see what life has to offer. And I know of many people who were great lawyers and have veered into so many new things, different businesses or different, careers altogether. And you'll actually find people who are probably teachers, who began off as teachers, and now they're probably doing things that are totally different from, what they position themselves for. So I can't prescribe a particular moment. I think it's really up to you, the individual, just to ask yourself if it's working out. And again, it goes back to self-awareness and really asking yourselves, or just checking in on yourself. Am I really killing it? Is this what I really want to? Or do you go to work at Fiona's law firm and you're tired? I'm not talking about you, Shiba. I'm just saying, yeah? And you're tired because you see, sometimes getting into a working environment and you're just tired and drained, that's a clear sign you're not feeling it. It's time to move on. But I think you just need to find out what you're really good at, where your passions are, or where your passion is, and exploit that as much as you can. Thank you.
I just want to pass on the microphone to you, but still to speak about the same, but specifically looking at just for the few years where we've seen you as a president, Uganda Law Society. Today we know you a partner, if not a founding partner of a certain law firm, and now you have this particular leadership institution. For me, it portrays a lot of urge to either send a message or the passion to speak about something. And for us as the young professionals, people that are just trying to define our paths, how do we get that sense of clarity that while maybe we're pursuing law, we know that we're supposed to stick in a particular line, and maybe some of those key factors that someone ought to look out for in their early professional life, so that while maybe someone has gone to law school and now they have a job in a particular industry, say it's the private sector, maybe something to do with business, how do we not divert from maybe what our career interests are? Yet on the other hand, we also want the financial growth.
Wow, that's a loaded question. But I just want to also say, following my big brother here, whom I follow, by the way, the first time I heard about Ikigai, it was from him, and I went and looked for the book. So thank you for that. The thing I'll add is that you need to, you're young, and when you're young, the one thing you have in liters and liters and liters is passion. Sometimes the passion is for a girl or a boy. Sometimes the passion is, but you'll find that you're just passionate about everything you're doing. You're even passionate about the things you hate. You hate them passionately. You do everything passionately. Now, when you're a youth, thank you. When you're a youth, the passion can consume you. So there's another Japanese principle called Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. Be committed to getting better every day. I've been a DJ. I started out working in my mom's salon. There's nothing I can't do. I can make Shiba look that beautiful. Actually, right now, I always tell people, if things got hard, you'd find me in a beauty parlor. I've been a DJ. I've been, I don't know what I haven't done. But the thing, I've done PR, public relations. But the thing that helped me on my journey, maybe, was that hunger to learn. I hated not knowing. But then the other thing that we talk about, Shiba mentioned it, being available. When you're a young person, the thing you have on you is time. And I know some of you really love your Netflix and chill, and you think that anything that enters that is a problem, but you have a lot of time. And time is money. Time is your tool of trade right now, because you don't have maybe skills or expertise, or maybe what you have is what you've gotten from school. And someone said education is what you have left after you forget everything you studied. So what are you going to do with your time? And what I learned is that with my combination of passion and time, it was very easy for me to now make myself available. I entered the market without a job, so I started volunteering. Actually, I started volunteering all law school. I was volunteering at a legal aid clinic. But this exposed me. At the legal aid clinic, they would do training. So I made myself the girl that would punch papers. Then I was the girl that would type the trainings. Then I'm so good because of the law of precedence that they teach us at just reproducing things. So I knew how to do mail merge, and I could write massive amounts of letters to men threatening them to do child support, you know. So suddenly this goes into, oh, Fiona, we have a training here, or who wants to go to Kabera Maido? And nobody wants to go. I just put up my hand, get in a taxi and go. Guys, I went to Bundibujo. We were seated in a little taxi, and I was going to do research, legal research. And we were seated in a taxi, and this woman came in with a fish, like a huge fish like this, and laid on our laps. I died. And I went to Bundibujo and I spoke to the magistrate there and the police. And you know what we were doing? Save the Children was phasing out the courts, was doing a project to phase out the grade 3 magistrate courts and turn them into family and children's courts. That's a project I boast about being a part of. But I had no qualifications. I was a second-year student, just being available. It exposed me to that, gave me some skills. I knew how to interview people. A friend of mine was running Power FM. He was the MD there. So once in a while, he used to say, Fiona Manyolu Zungu, come and edit for me these things. So while I was there, he said, but you know, I need to give you some training. There's a BBC is here training my team. If you want to join. That's how I got a whole BBC training on how to interview people. I was a third-year student. I never thought I would ever use this skill, but I availed myself. And then 2-3 years later, I'm hosting Talkback on Radio 1, you know? So what I'm trying to say is make yourself available. Commit to continuous improvement. Embrace, we're talking about career change, but even within your job, there are those things nobody wants to do. Get them and be good at them. You'll find that we have Mark. Mark is a lawyer. Please wave Mark. He's a lawyer. But Mark is always taking photographs. Now I think he's just, you know. We have Aziz. By the way, Fidelis Leadership Institute is drowning with lawyers. We need other people. Please come. And Aziz, while he was doing his law degree, he was building his social media career. Now he's head of PR in a university somewhere, you know. So one of the things that we need to understand is that, and I had somebody say it, that your generation is never going to have one career. Your generation is never going to thrive. And I'll tell you what used to happen in the telecoms. I worked in the telecoms. Every 2 years, people would move. Why? It's only when you move to another telecom that you're able to negotiate a higher salary. Then your people want you back. Then they'll pay you even more. So sometimes even a prophet is not liked where they are. So it's okay to move. But sometimes moving too often will make you suspect and ruin your chances of even grabbing, should I say, traction. Lastly, there are things about what you are doing right now that excite you. Things that tickle your imagination, things that pique your curiosity, those are the things you need to scratch at. Because you're going to find, I remember in National Water, I was working on bank relationships, the legal relationships with banks and how to collect payments and all these things. And then the MD said, you know, we're going to roll out, we're going to close collection points in National Water. Fiona, do the concept, you this and this. But one of the things that amazed me that time was the banks being able to collect our money. How could we make that a beautiful experience for our customers? Because we had customers who would walk from their farm barefoot into the office to come to pay their water. And we didn't see Stanbic Bank accepting this, you know. So I came up with this concept not only for the legal bit, but also for the customer experience. And then the MD told me, so you're in charge of training. You train raving fans, you train customer care. So I became the trainer for customer care. Up to now, I do trainings even for NSSF in customer care. It's something I've never really done, but I train in, you know. So this is how you get those little things that tickle you will lead you. It's like Alice going down that hole. So that little hole that's tickling at your imagination, it might not be another career, but go dig it, go find it out, and you find that you get that exposure.
Okay, thank you. At least you see that we have experts and not just people that are speaking about this, but people have lived what that they feel probably they need an answer to before you leave, and then we can have the discussion going on. From the sharing so far, at least one thing is clear: you have defined your parts, and you have young people that you're working with. My question here is how, and this is maybe more practical, how do you support these young professionals to see that you pass on the skills and the training? A lot of times we get into spaces where when you see this young professional excelling, it seems like they are trying to compete with their bosses. And it becomes a challenge. And sometimes you have to tone down because you don't want to be looked at as though you're trying to take over. So how do we ensure that these young people that we have that are just trying to learn some of these skills can be able to acquire them? And how do you even assess that I can probably give Shiba a task to give the opening remarks, not someone who is going to maybe not represent fully. Sorry about that. So how do we, on the aspects of passing on the skills to our subordinates or the people that we work with, our colleagues? Yes. And I'll start with you, Comrade.
Okay. First of all, in my working space, everyone has an opportunity to run a Monday meeting. It's not me, the CE, who sits at the end of the table who runs the meeting. So you have each and every one within the organization, be it an intern. This week we had one of our interns run a meeting. Now, that alone just gives the guy confidence. It makes them ready for, you know, taking on responsibility, but also seeing or believing that it's possible. You know, that's something that I found fascinating. So it's very important to mask or to understand that it's, you know, the reason we're in roles, or the reason we're in positions that we are in, is not for our own sake. It is to support the next person below you to become better. And that's why succession becomes a very important thing. If you ever talk about leadership and you don't talk about succession, you're not talking about anything. So succession is about, and by the way, that's the biggest task for a leader. The biggest task for a leader, or task for a leader, is to be able to create a succession plan for each and every person in his organization. Now, we guys do it in a different way, and we try to promote young people and, you know, giving them responsibilities, but also letting them run with projects. If I give one guy here a big project that you would assume is for a big guy, they will actually do more than the big guy, because they have a lot to prove, they're hungry, and they're willing to show or prove whatever it takes. without a doubt. But before I get into this, let me just take you back to a simple story, or it's not actually a story, it's a reality that I think I need to emphasize here. And I like what you said when you said, this generation has so many opportunities for career changes. First of all, with myself, I'll still say I'm probably still in the whole mix of career changes. So I don't want you to think I've figured it out. So when you say we figured it out, if someone says they've figured it out, they're lying. Some guys are in their careers and trust me, they are dead bored. They're trying to figure it out. But you look at them and you're thinking, this is a successful lawyer somewhere. They're struggling. So I haven't figured it out. But I'll tell you something interesting. If you think about it, in the 1940s, when you got a job, say in a factory or whatever, your employer would step on you, beat you, spit on you, and trust me, you would thank him the next day and go back to work. In the 70s, people started realizing that you could actually do courses that can actually get you away from your crazy industrial jobs and you could do something else. Today, people can actually do so much away from traditional employment and can actually make more money away from traditional employment. I mean, I know guys, my friend Faiza is here, she was talking about the gig economy some time back and talking about how young people go out and actually do a lot of gigs and actually make more money. They are actually making more money, you know? So things have changed. And that's why now you see a young guy get into a job or a working environment, and when he sits in there the first day, he's like, nah, I'm quitting today. You know why? When you ask him, why are you quitting? He says, I just didn't feel the vibe in that place, man. He didn't feel the vibe. If I had a father back in the day and told him, I quit because I didn't feel the vibe, they would slap me to next Tuesday, but also, I don't know if I'll be alive. So times have changed, and we need to understand that times have changed. But also, the internet today is that crazy, amazing thing. And I keep saying this whenever I meet a lot of young people. What are you using the internet for? Are you on there for violence? You know, because a guy today was saying, you know, Dr. Kasene posted and said, you know, sometimes the timeline is so draining. You know, when you look at it, there's a lot of, you know, negative stuff on there. And then some guy says, yeah, I come when I am really stressed and I come to hit guys and I see the reaction. And I ask myself, how does this guy sleep in the night, man? Does that make him happy? But you see, the internet has provided us with the best opportunity to learn. When I was growing up, or when my parents were growing up, you only had an encyclopedia. Do you remember the encyclopedias? And it was hardly, what do you say, renewed or whatever. So you had an encyclopedia. If you wanted to know about Oman, you go to the library, you open up O, you pick up the encyclopedia, which is O, you look at Oman, they tell you the currency and everything. Today, with the internet, you can learn about anything anywhere. You can learn anything. I go onto the internet, onto YouTube, and I'm looking at Harvard, you know, the Harvard Business School, and all of these are very amazing lessons that are on there, tutorials. Trust me, for free. So I think that alone provides us the basis for being able to look into other opportunities that are around us, looking into ideas that can actually be the best thing. I will tell you something for a fact. I make probably more money from my speaking engagements than my real work. So what I spend my time doing now is looking out for great speakers and emulating them or learning a few things here and there. If you ask me what my career is, like I said, I don't know. I'm still on my journey. Thank you.
The last one to you, comrade. As your final words, what would be your advice to the young person here, or an advice that you would give to your younger self, someone who is trying to establish their career path, someone who is trying to understand where exactly they fall, and someone who has not been able to define their career path at the moment? Probably someone who is just fresh from university and all they think about today is, I just want to be somewhere working. What would you advise such a young person?
Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. I went back to university when I was 28. So I dropped out of school when I was, after my high school. I decided to become a town boy. I didn't want to go to university. I went to Makerere. I dropped out after 6 months. I was in Lumumba. All I was doing was drinking and striking. That was what I would wake up and do. And I decided to quit because it was boring. I wasn't really enjoying it. I was doing social sciences and it just didn't really cut it for me. I went back to my town boy job, became a DJ at KFM. I was the first DJ, by the way, on KFM, Friday night and Saturday night. My name was Black Daddy Sugar Love, for many of you who don't know. And those days, by the way, we didn't have PC DJ and all these things. We had to use CDs. So when you're looking for another song, you have to go through your CD album and collection to look for another song. But I decided to go to the UK to do Cheyo. My first job in the UK, I was a car wash guy. And then I became a chef. I was illegal. I was illegal for close to 6 years, actually 6, 7 years. Without school, I was a complete dropout. Now that time, for many of you who are young, there was a thing called high five. I know, Kera, you weren't born yet, you don't know high five. You only knew myspace.com. But I used to see my friends, you know, with nice fancy jobs, they're driving, and I would be like, wow, one day I would like to have a job where I can wear a suit and a tie and show up. Fast forward, I got back to university at 28, did my undergrad, did my master's and all of that. Today, I despise a suit and a tie. That's a fact. And for many of you who have seen me, I rarely wear a suit and a tie. It's only when it's a really official situation. So, enjoy the process. My journey is my own individual journey, just like our thumbprints or whatever. What Fiona has gone through, probably that might not work for me. And as much as I want to be like her, I really have to create my own path. And that's the beauty about life, because our individuality creates an opportunity for us to be amazing. And that's why I keep saying, you know, everyone has greatness in them. Because you see, once you stop being yourself, once you kill your authentic self, you're not anything. Because now you're trying to be someone else, you're trying to live someone else's life. Authenticity is the best gift you can actually give yourself. And that is what people, or that's what attracts you to people, or that's what attracts people to you. So if you want to move career and you want people to say, oh, I know this guy for this, or there's a guy who I know for something, it has to come from your true authentic self. So just enjoy the process, do your thing, be you, and I keep saying, do you. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I'm still around. Yeah.
Okay, then maybe that gives us more time to still engage with Fiona, and then we can open it up once we're done. And still my questions, like Comrade Otoa spoke about it. I see how you relate with the young people here that you actually work with. That is so rare to find in our workspaces. I think most of you could agree with me. It's already a sign of how you're passing on the skills. But maybe just to speak about it, what are some of those things that you ensure the young youth can be able to acquire, to understand, and probably something that could help them. And finally, also for you, to speak about the advice that you would give to a young Fiona or a young person out here that is trying to define their path.
Thank you. Simon Sinek, someone I follow, recently said something on LinkedIn that I found very profound. He said that in the past, it was expected that you would trust your boss. You were expected to trust your boss to lead you in the right direction. Right now, as a leader, you have to inspire trust. You have to earn the trust of your young people so that they can follow you. John Maxwell says you cannot lead unless you have followers. I think that building on to what Comrade said, one of the things we need to realize is that leadership is a failure if you have no successor at the end of it. All my life, I struggled with delegating, with trusting people, because you want to do something really, really well and you're impatient and Patience is not my strong suit, so if I give it to you once, twice, I'll take it back. And that was such a huge problem for me up to about, should I say, 6, 7 years ago. I was leading a department and I was failing. I'd have all these pluses and wins to report, and my MD would ask, so what did so-and-so contribute to this? And it was difficult for me to find. Why? Because I was not willing to wait for my team. So what I've learned to do is to wait for them. Trust them, but sometimes also walk with them. When people think that you're perfect, you're setting them up for failure because they'll give up. They'll never try to be like you. But if they see your vulnerabilities, if they walk with you, I've walked with Sheba for almost 5 years. There's nothing she doesn't know about me. And because of that, she knows that this imperfect Fiona can do this. And because of that, there are things I don't have to tell her while she's leading the team. By the way, I'll tell you, Sheba and another young lady called Martha ran the farm and the institute for 2 years without me being there. I'm just stepping in now. And let's give them a big hand clap. And I trusted them with my name because I had already trusted them with who I am. So not everybody, of course, will show up and win, but it's worth it. I've found that if you lead, and I always tell people, don't do it to too many people. If you're going to mentor people, mentor 12 maximum. Let's follow Jesus' example. Mentor 12, but make sure that they're also mentoring others. They need to lead others. Why am I saying this? Life is like a river. It has to flow. So many people have trusted me. The first time I met Honorable Maria Chiwanuka, it was at an interview to become a lawyer in her organization, National Association of Broadcasters. But that's the day she asked me to run the talk show, the morning show. That was trusting somebody. So a lot of people have trusted me, thrown me in the deep end. That's something I love to do. I love to throw them in the deep end. I love to say, so today you're going to interview so-and-so, today you're going to be in charge of this. And then you have to handhold. It costs, it can cost you. You're not going to get perfection, but it is so worth it. Because when I'm able to reproduce myself in this place, I'm able to then to learn, to continue with my Kaizen journey of getting better. Now, why leaders should not be insecure about people taking their place is, what business do you have staying in that place? You are also on a journey. He's told you, he's on a journey. He's improving himself every day. He is learning every day. I'm learning every day. I've just become the CEO of something called League of East African Directors. If I thought I had seen the CEOs, now I'm dealing with board chairs. That can blow your mind, the level at where they're thinking. So now I'm also educating myself. That means that I'm already looking for the next CEO, because now I want to be a chairman of the board, you know? That is life. Life is a river. We have to continue flowing. If you don't flow, it gets stale and mosquitoes will make a home of it. So the last thing I want to say is, you asked what I do. I said, throw them in the deep end, expose yourself to them and be vulnerable. But you also have to be accountable as a leader. Many times we say, do as I say and not as I do. I'm very passionate about integrity and ethics. And I keep teaching my young people how important it is. But if I do other things on the side, they will know. And I will lose any moral authority I have to ask of them to be ethical. So one of the things that young people do for me is they keep me accountable. I remember in our running for elections for President Law Society, someone brought dirt on one of our opponents. Very juicy dirt, you know? And before I could say it, someone else said, "We're fat, we don't use dirt." And I remember thinking, who sent you, you know? But I realized at that moment, I had no say in this matter, you know? So if your young people are there, they're going to keep you accountable. They're going to, sometimes my people believe in fat and believe in this thing more than I do. Sometimes I want to recognize another member. FLI team, please stand up. I just want to recognize them. They're all fantastic. And another thing I do is we don't lock them up in the same spaces. Maria, why aren't you standing up? Okay. So Maria is an education specialist. Lynn over there is a journalist and PR head of another organization, but she's part of us. You've seen Mark and Shiba. Now, each of these people get a chance to try out what they love. And the beautiful thing is, right now I'm working with Lead. If they see something in Lead they want to get exposed to, I'm open. I worked with National Water until the end of last year. If I had a gig in National Water and I needed ushers, and these guys wanted to be a part of it, why not? So the issue is, as young people, the people that are leading you, are you making yourself available to them? Do they know that they can rely on you on a Saturday? Shiba told me, we are partnering with Bakash. By the way, I just got this information. Then I said, okay, it's on a Saturday. I said, are you guys willing to sacrifice your Saturday? They're here. It was not compulsory, but they're here. So you need to make yourself available as a young person. You need to be committed to working with that person, but also hold them accountable. If Fiona says she's fat, she needs to be fat.
Fiona, and of course to you, comrade. I think for anyone that came with an expectation to hear about how do I transit from my current career to the other, when is the right time, what do I need to think about before I transit, my key highlights is there is never a right time. And there isn't a time where you say, I have made it, or I am finally in a place that I feel I should be at. But as leaders that sit here, and also as us, the young people, what really comes out is we need to hold each other accountable. On top of that, we need to be willing to work, because the only way we can be able to achieve more within our workspaces is if we are able to earn that particular trust, if we are able to exhibit a certain sense of willingness to work, and also to invest within ourselves. I think something that Fiona talked about, most of us are still suffering from that particular syndrome of weekend is my time. And now in our world is the word mental health. This one we have really prioritized. There are a lot of times we say, for my mental space, I am not sacrificing my weekend. But I think maybe we need to do a bit more towards seeing how we can invest more in ourselves. And that way we can be able to even acquire more skills in these particular fields and to be the next leaders of our generation. So at least, okay.
But I also want to emphasize that a rolling stone gathers no moss. It's very important for you to do the time wherever you are and gain skills. John Maxwell says you need 10,000 hours to be an expert at anything. If God has given you a career, I don't know, if you have studied to be a lawyer or a doctor, that's a profession no one will ever take away from you. You can wake up, we have people who've been justices of the Supreme Court and they retire and go back to their law firms. We have ministers, the former attorney generals, they're all now in their law firms working. So it is very important for you to do the time, to master a skill, so that at any one time you can go back to it. So do not, they say that do not ignore the small beginnings. So wherever you are, someone called Irene Birunji just launched a book and she says, blossom where you're planted. One of the things God has never allowed me to do is move from a job when I'm sad, when I'm angry. The moments I've been angry at my bosses, they don't appreciate me. Those are the times there's no interviews, no one wants me, you just can't find a job. But when I get comfortable and I start feeling, then a promotion shows up, that's when the next step comes. because you're ready. So one of the things to know that you're ready is that you are usually at a good time. Never leave unfinished business, and don't break bridges, because those are the employers that might use you again.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. At this time, I want to open up the discussion to any of us that would have a particular question or something to add or an observation, or they wish to share just a brief story about themselves and see how maybe our panelists can be able to speak towards the same. So if any of you would like to raise that concern, you can just put your hand up, and maybe I can ask someone from the team